So President Biden is finally giving in. And this is big news for the American people. It's also massive news for many U.S. cities. I talked about this earlier on today, where over 600 cities are at risk of being in danger. And we could actually see those 600 cities, residents could lose a lot of things. Their homes, their benefits, just their libraries, their schools, rec centers, and things like that. So with President Biden finally giving in, this could mean we are moving in the right direction for once. But I will break down what is going on in just a moment. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So I've been talking about this specific thing for many weeks. I've been addressing parts of this for a few months, but what's happening right now is we are seeing a massive shift in this immigration crisis. And the shift is coming from the Biden administration. And I want to show you this. Okay? This is coming from NBC News. They say that the Biden administration is considering executive action to deter illegal migration at the southern border. It says with border security legislation unlikely in Congress, the White House wants to take action. Migrant crossings are expected to soar back to last year's record levels. Now, why are we expecting this, and why is the Biden administration coming out now? Well, here's what I can tell you. The one reason why we are expecting immigrant crossings to surge actually in March is because historically January and February see a very low volume of illegal immigration into the United States. It has a lot to do with a couple things. Number one, Mexico every single year starting January 1st, they get new funding. And their new funding then allows them to bring back all these programs that send buses and planes back from the northern border of or the northern part of Mexico and send people back down to the southern part of Mexico. Again, they have funding to do that. They also now have funding to put up little encampments, and they have some of their agents in Mexico on the Mexico side of the U.S. border, and they are trying to find people to send them back to the southern part of Mexico. Okay, so Mexico is doing more for the United States, and it just so happens January 1st is when they got all the funding. So that's one part. Second part is our climate, our weather. In the United States, we don't have the best weather in January and February, especially, let's say, the northern part, right? In Washington State, in New York, and Chicago, it's cold. It is very cold. People don't want to live there, especially if they don't have shelter. Okay, so that's another part of it. But that's the reason why March is expected to see a surge. Now, let's get to what is actually happening, though, because we've been hearing about this for a while. The Biden administration was planning on passing a border security bill. It was going to be a bipartisan bill, and this bill was going to provide security to the U.S. border and to the American people. Well, just this week, they released the text, and it failed. It wasn't going to pass because Republicans said, nope, no way. Now, I want to tell you this, though. According to reports, Democrats say that this would have been the toughest border security bill in decades, that this is exactly what we needed. And Republicans said that, yes, they are not denying that this would have been the toughest and possibly the fairest border security bill in decades. However, what they are questioning is it doing enough? Not is it fair and is it tough, but is it doing enough? And Republicans said no. They believe that the policy reforms could be even stricter to limit the amount of people coming into the United States, and this could actually benefit us in the long run. That's the reason why they rejected it. Well, now, because of all these issues, the Biden administration says they have been discussing executive action for many months. They say the plan has been considered for months because Democratic governors have been asking the Biden administration to step in. For instance, Chicago and New York, okay, or the Illinois governor and the Chicago mayor and the New York mayor and the New York City, or the New York City mayor and the New York governor have all been asking the Biden administration to step up and provide some assistance. Well, they're now trying to do that. But according to reports, they say it might not happen for a little while. Let me read you this. It says Democratic mayors who have asked for more help from the federal government to handle the influx of migrants in their cities would be pleased. However, the measure is still being drafted and is not expected to take place anytime soon. Now, I want to read you a statement from the White House, okay? And the reason why I want to read you, well, we'll discuss this statement, but look at this. It says, the administration spent months negotiating in good faith to deliver the toughest and fairest bipartisan border security bill in decades, because we need Congress to make significant policy reforms and to provide additional funding to secure the border. Here's the issue. The executive action that President Biden is discussing at this time and working through, it's only one part. This is the issue. This would just be a band-aid to the U.S. border crisis. Now, I'm not here trying to protect and get on President Biden's side. I'm not trying to do that because I think it's the border security issue has been abysmal for a while. But here's the thing. Is the White House accurate when they say that this is only going to do half of the job? Yes, 100% they're accurate. But at the same time, are Republicans accurate when they're saying that, well, why would we only do part of the job? The border's still going to be open. So here's what's being discussed right now. They're talking about needing more than $20 billion to address the U.S. border crisis. Okay? Keep in mind, $60 billion was going to go to Ukraine. $60 billion to Ukraine, $20 billion to the U.S. border. Now, here's where things get interesting. President Biden, yes, he's considering executive action, but he still wants to go and do it with through a bipartisan Congress. The reason why is actually twofold. Number one, Democrats don't want to be the one holding the bag if this bill doesn't work. They do not want to pass a bill that is a Democratic bill because, number one, if it doesn't work, they will be blamed for it. But if you pass a bipartisan bill and it doesn't work, it is both Republican and Democrats' fault. It's just the way it works. So that's part of it. The other reason why they want to pass a bill is because they're trying to cram a bunch of stuff into that bill, which they know President Biden does not have the legal authority to provide additional humanitarian assistance to places like Gaza and Israel. Can't do it. Can't pass an additional $60 billion to Ukraine. That's one of the reasons why Congress is attempting to do a standalone bill for just Ukraine and pull out the border security stuff. The issue is, will it actually pass? We don't know. But here's the reason why they need more than $20 billion. What we are hearing is that, and this is both from the Republican camps and from Democratic sides, they say we need more border agents to apprehend more illegal crossings. Okay? If they don't have enough agents, and here's the problem, this is exactly what happened over the past few years, is they've had a funding issue. But not only have they had a funding issue, the amount of people that stuck by and stayed with the United States border protection, they left. More people were leaving than coming in. They had a hiring crisis. Okay, that was one of the issues. So all the money in the world, unless you're giving people $1 million to take on this job, it's probably not going to happen. People didn't want the stress to be there at the U.S. southern border. So they didn't apply for those jobs. That's one of the issues. They also said $20 billion wouldn't be enough to hire more judges, and we need more judges to process immigrants faster. And here's the reason why. So there's funding, right? We got the funding aspect of it. That's over here, right? We got the funding. And then we got the policies, right? We got the policies. So we got policies here, we got the funding here. Here's the problem. And this is where things are really coming together. The funding is needed to hire judges, right? The policies needed to make it stricter, where now you have it's much more difficult to get into the United States, right? You have to apply, you have to go through these different hoops, and okay, that's great. But if you don't have the judges, right, which you need money for, and you just have the policy, well, those people get stuck in a backlog. And where do they go? Most likely just let into the United States. But again, if you just have funding and no policy, right, then what happens there? You got all these judges, and they're pushing people through as fast as possible. But guess what? Where do they go? Into the United States. And so again, you need both of those things. The other one, they say we need more detention centers to hold more illegal entries. And this is what I thought was interesting. I actually talked to somebody that works inside of one of these facilities, and they said this, okay? And I'm not going to quote you exactly, but they said something along the lines of this, that they have to have more space within the detention center, because if not, people come in and guess what happens? If it's full, they funnel them out. They don't send them back to Mexico. They don't send them back to their home country. They send them into the United States and say, hey, make sure you answer this phone. Make sure you get a hold of us, because you're going to have a court date very soon. Guess what? If they had more detention centers, right, where they could legally hold people, families, right, individuals, they could go through the process of ensuring that they're not dangerous, that they're not being trafficked. They can ensure that they are, what their intentions in the United States actually are, right? And they can do that within a confined area. They don't have to let them into the United States and everyone spread out, go wherever they want to, and just answer the phone or answer the email when we send it to you. So that's one of the other issues, is that if we had more detention centers, then we could allow people technically into the United States, try to process them, and if they don't get processed or they don't get approved, we send them back. So the other one is to build more of the United States border wall, right? That's on the table as well. So right now, it is actually pretty big news that the Biden administration is actually thinking about this and is considering executive action at this time. But keep in mind, the White House is already saying this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take quite some time for them to put this together. But in the meantime, they're trying to pass a bill with Congress. That's the first thing that they want to do. So that's where we're at this time. As always, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.